Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much if you're here before 4, if you're here some minutes after 4. Thank you so much to all our distinguished guests for staying. Right now we are live on YouTube, so I believe we could start. Zoom is for a limited number of people, but majority of the people will be joining us on YouTube. So kindly encourage people to join us on YouTube. So I want to officially say good day, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the second day and the second session of the African Youth Empowerment Summit, the virtual edition. My name is Daisy Alavi, and I will be your moderator for today's session. This session promises to be educative and interactive as we delve into the topic climate action, environmental leadership, and community transformation. Okay, so one thing I like doing with virtual sessions to ensure that everybody's logged in, both on YouTube and Zoom. Kindly drop your favorite emoji if you want to press the clapping emoji. Just let me see that you are logged in to listen to our seasoned speakers, and do share the link. Encourage people to join us on Zoom and YouTube. I can see some hands clapping. Thank you so much. Okay, without further much ado, as I stated, we'll be talking about climate action, environmental leadership, and community transformation. And we've been blessed to have seasoned speakers. So without any more delay, I would want to introduce our first speaker. Okay, our first speaker is in the person of Dr. Olufonso Somorin. He's the Regional Principal Officer of the African Development Bank, and he will be speaking on the topic integrating climate action into youth entrepreneurship and green finance. Dr. Somorin, please, are you with us right now?
Yes, Daisy.
Oh,
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
So much. Thank you so much. And you have our attention now, so you can take us away, please.
All right. So it's 7:13 p.m. here in Nairobi. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to all of you connected. I am very pleased to be part of this conversation today. And I call it a conversation because it's not just the speakers speaking with you, but also I think we must speak amongst ourselves. And why is it a conversation? It is a conversation because we are in a special era in humanity, in the history of mankind. We are in a state of human development where we have tried many things, or we've entrusted certain things into the hands of some people, and yet, unfortunately, it's not translated into the kind of results we wanted to see, not just for us, but also for our children, for our communities, for our farmers, as well as for the future generation. Today, I think we have brilliant speakers who are going to come after me. And what I want to do today is basically set the context around why this conversation is very important, but also why it is very timely. And please keep in mind that all throughout today and subsequently, we must consider this to be a conversation. It is not just a lecture, it is not just information sharing, it is truly an opportunity for us to pause and ask ourselves some very difficult questions, but more importantly, also challenge ourselves on what do we need to do differently going forward. So my name is Olufonso Somorin. I work for the African Development Bank, based out of our regional office in Nairobi for East Africa. And I do work on climate change and green growth. I want to tell you I want to talk about three key issues within this broader conversation about mainstreaming climate change in community-led engagement, but more importantly in youth and youth activities as well. The first part of it is that we have an intergenerational impact when it comes to climate change. There is a generational dimension of climate and climate risk. And if any of you have ever seen the IPCC reports, like the last one, the sixth report, but then there was a particular graphics and that was very important to explain what I want to talk about today. And that is, and imagine this. If you know a child that is 5 years old today, or around 4 years old, it could be your child, it could be your neighbor's child, it could be your nephew, it could be your niece. So the child must have been born in the year 2020. And if we expect that child to grow into young adulthood, eventually into adulthood and old age, on average, the life expectancy says that the person should live for 70 years. So a child born in 2020, is expected to live up to 2090. And I want you to imagine that. Now, over the course of the lifetime of this person, this child, who's going to be a young adult, who's going to be an adult, eventually an old person, over the course of this 70-year timeline, this person is going to face a dimension of climate impact in high severity of different types of impact, in high frequency of different types of impact, and with also high unpredictability. When you compare that person over the 70-year period of their life to what their parents faced and what their grandparents faced, then you understand, the intergenerational impact of climate change tells us that the next phases of our lives under a different climatic scenario will be extremely challenging. If we thought things were bad with what our parents, or whether you are a parent yourself, what you've seen, the changes you've seen, if we go deep into our memory and our recollections, and if we thought that our own grandparents or great-grandparents endured or suffered under huge climatic realities, I'm sorry to say, but I have to be honest, the next few years are going to be more difficult. And that tells us again that the conversation about today, while we reflect on the journey up to this point, it's more importantly, it is about reflecting and thinking about what the next phases of our life will be. So it's possible as a young person listening to me that within your lifespan, you have experienced the worst of drought, the worst of rainfall, whether in flooding, you've seen a small pool of what looks like a normal rain having a huge impact on infrastructure. And we are now saying the next few years, the coming years are going to be even worse. And that's why this conversation about the climate is not the one where we are hoping that a change will happen. It's not one where we are hoping that the change may affect our neighbor, it may not affect us. It's a change that all of us are exposed to. It's a change that all of us are vulnerable to. Even if we're not directly affected by it, everything that we depend on, the food that we eat, the road that we pass on, the water that we drink, everything will be affected by it, and ultimately we will be impacted by it. And that generational dimension is very important, because it then means that, and this leads to the second point, if the future is not looking very friendly, and you then need to ask yourself, who should be more concerned about our future? Is it the people who may not necessarily be in it, or is it the people who will live through it, and I'm sure you know the answer to that question. And that's why this conversation for us is not a one-off conversation. It has to be a continuous conversation, and we have to engage in this conversation at different level. A link to that is that there are things we need to do very quickly. It's a question of speed, because it's not just a change that is coming. It's also when we now look at ourselves. If we have to imagine a scenario where climate change will not happen, we will still be, and I'm speaking to those who are my fellow Africans, we will still exist in a continent that will deal with a number of challenges. And I don't want us to think the next frontiers of our problems will just be climate change alone. There are socio-economic issues within our continent that even outside climate change, they pose an enormous challenge to our development and to each one of us living the very best of our life. And for us and for a child in a rural part of Kenya to be able to compete with a child in another part of Singapore. And those are things that have to happen. For most of you who may know, we currently constitute 18% of global population. We are fast growing. In the next 5 years, sometimes when you say 2050, people think it's very far away. But let's even say here, in the next 5 years, there will be 500 million people joining our continent, our own children, our relatives. We have not provided enough food for everybody. We don't have yet drinking water for everybody. Our industries are not growing at the pace of our population to give jobs opportunity to people. So just imagine the development context of our continent and then combine that under a future climate scenario. And that tells us we've got work to do. I'm not here to discourage you. I'm here to give you a sense of the fact that we have to do and we have to achieve what we call scale and speed together. We need to do big things within a short period of time. And you could ask me, why are you talking about this to us? You work in a bank. Why don't you talk to the policymakers? Why don't you talk to the government officials? Why don't you talk to the banks? And that often seems like our challenge, that we feel this problem and perhaps the solution to this problem will not come from us. It should come from other people. I want to bring you to the core of my conversation today. I've had the privilege to be in climate change for almost 20 years. I actually studied climate change in school, up to PhD level. And I can tell you, and I've been privileged to write about it, to speak a lot about it. I've gone through all the phases of scientific reporting and all of the actions, all of the negotiations, everything. But I want to tell you something very fundamental. The climate change of today, it is not the solutions that we need or the crisis that we're dealing with. It is not a science crisis. Please take note of this. The climate crisis, it is not an environmental crisis. The climate crisis is not even a financial crisis. The climate crisis is a leadership crisis. The climate crisis, it is first and foremost a leadership crisis. And because it's a leadership crisis, it touches and affects on every aspect linked to either responding to it or in preferring solutions, whether on adaptation or mitigation. Why do I call it a leadership crisis? The way we have defined the global solution, or even a continental solution, or even at the very minimum, a local solution, we are looking at other people fixing the problem for us. We have not been able to bring our agency, the power of ourself, the power of our strength, the power of our number to be able to make some changes, no matter how small they are. The idea of leadership in our context, in our understanding, and for many of us, it is they do for us. We tell them what the problem is, they solve it. We don't bring ourselves to the point and the responsibility where we think of ourselves as part of the solution. And I'm hoping this will be the point that we make this correction. and we take a complete turn in our conversation where we begin to look at every one of us as part of the agency in solving the problem. That everyone, whatever changes, whatever behavioral adjustment that needs to happen, whatever knowledge that you pass out to one other person about what should be done, that is you in your climate leadership agency. That is you doing something. It may not be recorded, it may not be on social media, somebody may not clap his hands for it, but it's very much fundamental that you assume the role that you are a leader. So in every aspect of your approach to the solution, you do that from a standpoint of leadership. The money that we need is available. And I'll repeat that. The money that we need is available. The technology that we need is available. The policies that we need, they are not being thought of. They're already there. So if all of these things are there, why are they not producing results on the ground? Why don't we have the confidence that we're stronger together and we can solve the problem together? It is because we haven't brought everything strongly to the power of leadership. And that is what I want to leave you with. Leadership is not others doing things for you. It is about you understanding what the problem is, but also bringing yourself to a point that there is at least one thing that you can do. There is at least one thing that you can do. If you choose to write an article about an initiative that you saw, and someone, at least one person, gets to read that and they learn that from you, you may just think you're a writer at that point in time. You may even be proud of yourself as somebody who is part of the body of knowledge. But at that point in time, you've stepped into leadership. That is leadership in action. If you choose to tell a young kid about the biology of photosynthesis and how carbon gets taken out of the atmosphere by planting a tree, and you explain it in your local language, that is you being a leader. It is important that we bring leadership very close to the door of ourselves. If leadership were a person, we must be able to point at it and say, this is it. And every one of us must find a role in what we can do. And we must find a value in being part of this movement, in being part of this conversation. This is the motivation that pushes me every day. This is, for me, the motivation that I may never know who's listening to me or is watching me, but this is leadership, and all of us must be part of the solution. I want to repeat this. A climate crisis is not a science crisis. It is not a technology crisis. It is not a financial crisis. It is not even an economic crisis. More than anything, it is a leadership crisis. And the solution to that requires that we redefine leadership. We bring agency and the power to heart closer to every individual. And we build a society that recognizes the value and the contribution of every one of us. And that is what I want to leave with you, for all of you listening. And I'm hoping that you can embrace this and you can begin to look around you with the eye of leadership. And with those eyes, you can begin to see any little thing that you can do in your own way to make sure that this solution is a reality. It's not just a theory, that this solution becomes practical, and that for that child that will be 70 one day by 2090, they can look back and say, against all science, against all odds, we have lived a resilient life without necessarily increasing carbon in the atmosphere. I wish you all the best. This is the beginning of a long conversation, and this is a call for a movement where we bring leadership closer to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashimori. I mean, I've
Thank you.
learned a lot from what you said. If you have learned anything, maybe a few over my head, kindly drop it in the chat, because I learned, for one, that you said it's a continuous conversation and it's a now problem. I love the fact that you also said that we have to understand the problem and understand that we are part of the solution. So thank you so much for pouring into us, and hopefully we can hear more from you as time goes on, because this is a continuous conversation. Please remember, if you have any questions for Dr. Shomorin, we have a Q&A session after all our speakers are done. So kindly hold on to it. When it's time, you drop it, then I'll read it on your behalf. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Shomorin.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Bye. Okay. That was beautiful. I mean, I kept on writing notes, and I love the fact that he made it so relational. You understand? I'm sure you got that too. As I said, if you have any questions, remember we have a Q&A. But moving forward, I mean, I can't wait to hear from our next speaker. She's already had a previous encounter with her, and I know that she's about to pour into us very solid information. So without much ado, I would love to introduce our next speaker. She's in the person of Ambassador Yvette Philbert. She is a humanitarian and a patron of the Rebuild Africa Agricultural Project. And she'll be speaking on the topic Youth-Led Agribusiness and Food Security Solutions. Ambassador Yvette, please, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for spending your time, and you have the floor now. Thank you.
I thank you so much. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to those of you who are joining us here on Zoom and to those who are joining us on YouTube. I just want to let you know that today I am not alone in this presentation. I've also got the co-founder and the actual brains and the worker behind the project in the person of Honorable Samuel Adesegun Egunjobi. He is with me today. That's going to shed light more on what it is. I would just give you a quick synopsis of the reason why it is. I agree with previous speaker, is that it has always been my understanding that the solutions to any crisis in any country is a solution that should be people-based, because the people are the ones who are voting to put in our leaders, our politicians. And so when things are going wrong, we should go back to basics, go back to the people in the various communities to start looking at solutions. You certainly cannot rely on a government to always be the one that's forefronting what needs to be changed in your environment. So again, it's down to leadership. There is just so much that can be said, but all I'm going to say is that as a patron for the Samuel Egunjobi Foundation, that is the actual charity that is registered, and we have different projects. One of the projects we have is one of the agricultural projects that we have instituted a few years ago now. I think it's 3 years, we're coming up to 3 years ago. And I don't want to take this away from him, because he is the one that is responsible for the day-to-day running of that academy and that entire project. And if you listen to him carefully, you will understand why it was that I felt the need to partner and to be a patron for this initiative of one young person who can make a difference in their community. So without further ado, I will hand over to Honorable Prince Samuel Adesegun Egunjobi and let him walk you through what it is we've been doing in Nigeria. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I don't know wherever you are hearing me from, but I come with peace and blessings. Thank you, Ambassador Yvette, for the introduction. And thank you, Dr. Olufunso Shomorin, for the explicit opening speech. I really learned a lot. Climate crisis is not financial crisis, it's leadership crisis. Thank you for that line. I'm Prince Samuel Adeshegun Egunjobi, and I'm the founder of the Rebuild Africa Foundation, officially incorporated with Corporate Affairs Commission of Nigeria as Samuel Egunjobi Empowerment Foundation. And today I will be speaking on youth and agriculture. As the academy is divided into different niche and sections, but today my speech will be centered on youth and agriculture. It's an historical fact that agriculture was the economic mainstay of Nigeria and major source of government revenue in the 60s. But since the discovery of crude oil, the attention of the government shifted from agriculture to oil exploration. Today, most of the youth, they see agriculture as an occupation for the retirement age and for the illiterate. But that's rooted in ignorance, and that's not true. Today, in Malaysia, the major export of Malaysian government is palm oil. And history has it that the Malaysian government sent people down to Nigeria to carry out research. And from here, they discovered the palm oil kernel, palm kernel. And they took it back to Malaysia, that was in the 60s. And today, they are the major oil exporter when it comes to red oil across the globe. As a youth-led development-oriented and humanitarian, we know that the youth are the reflection of every society and the bridge between the age and the next generation. The majority of Nigerian youth are not motivated to venture into agri-entrepreneurship, as they see it as occupation for the old. The reason for this assertion is rooted in miseducation and for the fact that modern day societies celebrate wealth without venture. Nowadays, most of the youth are influenced by social media posts to get rich quickly and not to divine timing, hard work, and patience, as imbibed us by our forefathers. To start with the food crisis in Nigeria, we understand and understand that the government cannot provide everything for the citizens in a complex country and multi-sectoral country like Nigeria. The reason we established Rebuild Africa Zero Hunger Agricultural Sustainability Project was to mitigate and curb the immense hunger crisis a few years ago, but now it's now widespread across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Here in Owo, a local government in Ondo State, the project, the headquarters is based there in Owo, and so far so good, we've been able, to impact our immediate community, another local government, and beyond. And some of the byproducts from our products, from this project, one, we have the 2O Plus, which we started, which was made from maize and cassava, and later on we devised another approach through innovation. We did Gari Vita, and now this one is people from across the world, they are ordering, placing order. Oh, they like this. Why did you come about this? I said, the concept came like an inspiration. I'm working like mine with Ambassador Yvette and few other people like that, and youth in the academy. We're able to come up with this concept of Gari Vita. And how do we cultivate the farm? How do we go about it? How do we process it? The academy, one thing the academy is based on is on sports, because I discovered through sports you can unite people. People like to play football, but they don't like to go to the farm. So one of the concepts is to unite them through skills, talent, technology, and intelligence revolution, bring them together through sports. On Monday, we do sports. On Wednesday, we do reading, we review different books, study that on education. On Friday, people that have a chance, they go to the farm, we prepare course. So if you play ball, if you read your book, and if you don't have food, you will not be motivated to do anything. So on Friday, the weekends, we go to the farm, we do whatever we can do. And this is how we started. This is how we started, and gradually is improving, and people are learning from us. And people are saying, oh, can't you see what Honorable Egunjobi is doing? Oh, look at the Rebuild Africa Academy. They're not just playing football alone. They are producing food. Oh, they are good ambassadors in their community. So that's how this, whatever we are doing here, the positive influence we are having in the community is getting across borders, and people from international communities are sending their commendations. So my question is now, how do we shift the focus of the youth from cybercrime and fraud to entrepreneurship and agriculture? How do we shift the focus of the youth from cybercrime and fraud into agriculture and entrepreneurship? Because society today, most of the youth, when you are going into agriculture, they see you like you don't know what you are doing, like you lack direction. Oh, you wapembe. That is a Yoruba phrase that means you maybe you get whatever you are doing. But today, that's not the case. The present-led administration by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing everything to resuscitate the dying agricultural sector by providing different incentives. But this incentive is not getting to the right people. It's not getting to the right people, the people at the bottom line. Come to Ondo State, you see people from Kogi State, from Kebbi State, from Sokoto State cultivating lands there, but they don't have access to proper infrastructure. They don't have access to proper support, inadequate funding. People here, they are funding their agri, the youth here, they are funding their whatever they are doing in agribusiness, they are funding themselves. And agriculture is not like that. You need support. You need support of tractors and other things, other necessary things that you needed to cultivate the lands, because you cannot do it alone. If you're applying manual labor, that will take a whole lot on you. The strength that you are using, instead of it to use to, to plant, you're using to clear the land. Where will the strength come to use to plant? And these are the things that the major challenge that these people are facing. Me personally, I'm having issues in terms of funding, because all the money we've been using, they are from my personal pocket. So thanks to our patron ambassador Yvette and other good people out there that are supporting us. And the people from the academy, they come to use their strength, to clear the land. But it has not been easy. So we are using this moment to appeal to the federal government, and also through the influence of Dr. Olufunso Shomonwi. If there's a way they can help us to reach out to African Development Bank, we need support. A single tree cannot make a forest. We've been trying to make impacts without the government support. Now, if the government can intervene, I believe whatever we started there will go a long way, and we'll be able to convince the youth that this is the roadmap. This is the right path. This is the road to sustainable development. This is the path to food security in Nigeria, rather than committing crime online or going around begging for urgent 2K. Right now, I think I don't have much. Ambassador Yvette will count it off. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable Samuel Egunjobi. I just want to quickly round up with just a quick summary of, again, when you're talking about leadership in environmental terms, environmental leadership is a cornerstone of the Rebuild Africa Foundation's vision to empower Africa's youth as drivers of sustainable development and community renewal. That's the key thing, is community. We have to get the communities back into work. In the face of the environmental challenges, such as climate change, deforestation, pollution, which is a great thing for all across Africa, and the loss of biodiversity, young people hold the power to lead transformative change by equipping the youth with knowledge, skills, and opportunities. This foundation cultivates a generation of environmental leaders. This is what we're doing, committed to protecting the planet and uplifting their communities. And that goes right across Africa. So through mentorship, training programs, grassroots initiatives, these young leaders are taking bold steps to create cleaner, greener, and more resilient communities. Their efforts range from organizing tree planting, cleanup campaigns, to advocating for environmental justice, promoting climate education, and implementing innovative solutions such as recycling initiatives and renewable energy projects. We know that Africa has got its own power source, the sun. So we need to start looking at ways of bringing these smaller elements into communities. It doesn't have to be anything huge as a solar farm. We can start with simple things like where you have generators. Now you can use solar to power your generators. Why are we not using it? These are things that are readily available to farmers over in the West, and they don't cost an arm and a leg. However, because we have what we call bad leadership, where it is we are not in control of what negotiations take place at the trade tables at government levels, is why it is we are not seeing these things being available across Africa as standard. Community transformation occurs when these individuals' efforts become collective movements. As youth engage their peers, their families, and local leaders, They seek awareness and action that ripple throughout neighborhoods and regions. The result is not only environmental improvement, but also stronger social bonds, improved public health, new economic opportunities, and a shared sense of purpose. At the heart of this transformation is the belief that rebuilding Africa begins with investing in its people, especially its youth. The Rebuild Africa Foundation champions this belief by creating platforms where young people can lead, innovate, and make lasting impact. By nurturing environmental leadership, the foundation is not only restoring the natural environment, but also empowering communities to thrive in harmony with nature. So together, through the vision that we have, the action that we are taking, and collaboration with other agencies like those who are here with us today, Africa's youth should be rewriting the story of their continent and building a future that is sustainable, inclusive, and full of promise. And that's what I would like to leave with you today, is to leave it on a positive note, to know that we can. Together we can. It takes communities to make change. So wherever you are, in whatever community you are, let's start making those small changes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Yvette and Ambassador Adeshogun. Thank you so much. I mean, what I took from Ambassador Yvette was the solution is people-based, and we cannot always rely on the government. And one key thing I got from Ambassador Adeshogun is the youth is a reflection of the society, but also goes community is key. Thank you so much for empowering us. Thank you so much for everything you're doing with the Rebuild Africa Agricultural Project, and hopefully you can spread your tentacles. Thank you so much for your time with us. Okay, so before I introduce our next speaker, I would love to encourage everyone to share the link, invite people to join us on YouTube. I would also love that if you have any questions for Ambassador Yvette, Ambassador Adeshogun, kindly keep them with you. We have a question and answer session, and your questions will duly be answered. Thank you so much. Okay, so moving on to our third speaker. She's in the person of Miss Nyansaina Kwambuka. She is the founder and CEO of African Environmental Youth Advisory, and she'll be speaking on the topic resilience, water security, and environmental education. So you're welcome, Miss Nyansaina. Are you with us? Okay. I see you.
Thank you so much, Daisy, for that wonderful introduction. And I'm really grateful to be a part of this community. And we are talking about a very, very serious conversation. As Ambassador Philbert said, the young people are the bearers of our future. This is the future that we will be inheriting. So it is up to us to take initiative, because a lot of the young people are the observers of society. You know, we spend our first 20 years observing and seeing what is going right and what is going wrong. So at the African Environmental Youth Advisory, we work on intersectional, intergenerational, and international environmental education. And our goal for this is to ensure that everyone, regardless of their nationality, their disability, their geographic location, whether you are a national nation or you're a refugee, we want every single person's perspective as a part of our story. And so with that, I would like to start with my presentation. And this presentation is on climate action, environmental leadership, and community transformation. So our story began with the Basel Convention on Transboundary Waste. The Basel Convention on Transboundary Waste is a treaty that was ratified in the 1980s by the Global North. And the idea of this international treaty was to permit the transboundary movement of waste from the Global North to the Global South. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Okay, who paid who to receive waste? The whole idea was that European countries and North American countries were permitted to ship waste to Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. The goal was to recycle this non-hazardous material, such as plastic waste, e-waste, textile waste. But in the 1980s, this was not considered incredibly hazardous. But as the years have gone by, we have seen how frontline communities in Ghana, in Kenya, in Southeast Asia are significantly affected by this international treaty. Now, I'm sure we're all aware about the international treaties such as the Paris Agreement and the Kyoto Protocol, COP, that happens every single year. None of these treaties talk about the value of climate adaptation in the global south. And that is a really huge problem. None of these treaties focus on undoing the harm that is already happening through the Basel Convention of Transboundary Waste. And this is significantly impacting our frontline communities. We continue to receive waste year in and year out. We don't even have our own capacity. I'll speak for Kenya. We don't have our own capacity to handle the waste that we already have. So majority of it is taken to low-income frontline communities where they have to burn this waste. And what happens when you burn waste that's not meant to be burnt? It goes into our atmosphere, it goes into our air, into our water, and that significantly impacts these communities that don't have the capacity to get the adequate healthcare for themselves. But what are we focusing on right now? Climate mitigation. We're focusing on carbon credits. We're focusing on renewable energy. We're not focusing on undoing the harm that is constantly happening within our communities. And that is a huge problem. Now, the African Environmental Youth Advisory was formed by sharing this specific story on the Basel Convention on Transboundary Waste. And when we posted this on social media, as young people, a lot of people were really surprised to hear about it, surprised at the fact that there was waste being shipped and surprised at the fact that no one was doing anything about it. So our video got about 25,000 views with people from literally the world over talking about how they could solve this problem. Now, at that point, I did not have a solution for this issue, but I did identify one issue that we are capable of solving right now. And that problem is educational knowledge from Africans by Africans. So that is how the African Environmental Youth Advisory was formed. And our impact model is focused on youth-led advocacy and training, international environmental education, research and Pan-African collaboration, and intersectional and intergenerational knowledge. Now, I think while we are not currently solving the issues at large, we are building an environmental database that is going to pioneer us into the rooms that we need to be to make the change. Okay, so this is a very slow and very gradual process of collecting data from in-person frontline communities. Now, in Kenya, we have worked with rural communities like the Juruma Indigenous Group of the Bonje community in Kwale County. which is working on mangrove restoration on their coastlines. And this is going to assist their communities with reducing the impact of sea level rise. Now, what's really fascinating about this specific collaboration is that when we went there, they were reseeding and planting 30,000 seedlings of mangrove. And you can see that all of this was based on indigenous knowledge with a combination of data. So we were able to look at the satellite data and see the exact location where these mangrove trees would be planted, and also estimate and forecast what the future would look like. We have also worked with the Mviringo Africa, where we worked with a group of 30 fellows and had climate conversations with people from Laikipia County, from Nairobi, and from all over Kenya as a whole. From this specific workshop, we were able to get into contact with a girl named Grace Kiarie. Now, I know that you all saw that we were going to talk about water scarcity. Now, Miss Grace Kiarie saw the news, and she was a witness, like many of us, a witness to the young girls in rural communities who have to walk for miles and miles to go and fetch water. To us in Nairobi watching this, a lot of people have become desensitized to this. But to Grace, she was like, you know what? The news keeps telling us this year in and year out. It seems like nothing is being done. So I'm going to go out there and see what is actually happening. So she spent about 3 days in Laikipia with a community, and she walked the walk that these young girls have to go through every single day to go and fetch water from Alaga. Alaga is a type of stream in Laikipia. Now, what surprised her the most was the fact that these girls had to wait for wild animals to drink the water before they could go and fetch the water. Now, if you're listening keenly, I said that these girls have to go and wait for the wild animals to drink the water before they can drink the water or collect the water. How dehumanizing is that? The girls' ages ranged from 18 to about 16 years old. And in Nairobi, we don't have to do that. We just open a tap and water comes trickling down. How is it that we are living in a country where we have abundance of water? When the floods come, they flood all over the place, but we still have extreme water scarcity. But at a global level, the priority is carbon credits. And that is what African communities are being pushed towards. I really do think that we have a misguided approach to climate adaptation. And that's something that really, truly needs to change. Now, why does this matter? So Africa as a whole has a total of about 54 independent countries, and we have about 5 to 6 countries that are still under colonial, quote unquote, colonial control, like Mayotte. But what is common about Africa as a whole? Now, I say Africa as a whole not because Africa is a monolith, no. We're very diverse, very individualized, very fascinating groups of people. But in this specific case, environmental issues are seen all across, from the east to the west, from the north to the south. And that creates a problem. It creates a problem because we are separated by borders, but we're all facing the same issues. But in the very same breath, it creates a huge opportunity for growth and reliable scalability. So 1 in 3 Africans lack access to clean and safe water. And by 2030, climate change will displace over 100 million people in Africa as a whole. That is 100 million people. The statistics keep growing because Africa has the youngest and most robust population of young people. What are we doing to ensure that in 10 years, we will be able to accommodate a lot of people who have been pushed out of their home due to climate catastrophes? The solution is education. Education is really the frontline defense that we need for this. Now, when we talk about international environmental agreements, I just want everyone to give me a response to people on the Zoom call. Do you think that international environmental agreements are a farce, or do you think that they are ambitious but achievable? That's a question to our audience. Okay, so from the chat, we have a response from Joseph. He says that international environmental agreements are conditionally achievable. I like that. And Gilbert emphasizes that they are achievable. Now, I have one of my really good friends here with me. Her name is Maria. And I just, we talk about young people, we talk about community, like Ambassador Philbert said. So I just want her to give a perspective on what she thinks about international environmental agreements.
I agree that they say they are conditionally achievable because this would take coming together of different perspectives and opinions and aligning them with the same goal. And for Africans, this might be a problem because we do not necessarily have the lines to communicate. But having said that, education being at the forefront, I would say it's a gradual process, but that makes it achievable. Yeah, that is my opinion.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate your insight. So as a whole, what I believe is that global promises sometimes lead to a lot of local failures. International environmental agreements often promise action, but they don't deliver a lot. Agreements like the Paris Accord and even the Kyoto Protocol, they are ambitious on paper, but they fail to account for African realities. They are decisions that are made without us. And in many ways, funding is delayed for these different decisions. So the solutions for international environmental agreements are kind of layered as a one size fits all solution. But a lot of the times, the global south is treated as an afterthought. And that is something that we need to work on. But we will counter this demise with climate education, and awareness is certainly the first step to resilience. So at the African Environmental Youth Advisory, we advocate for transnational environmental education as a powerful driver for transformative change. And we believe that the lasting impact begins with access to knowledge. And we cannot wait for solutions. We have to build our own solutions, which is why we call upon everyone from all 54 African nations to be a part of this story. And people can participate from any part of the world, any corner of their house, as long as you have a pen and a paper. or a cellular device to write your story and write your perspective on environmental issues happening in your country. Now, we're in Kenya right now, and we've gotten a total of about 10 different people with different perspectives on the environment, from agriculture to mining to water scarcity in different locations, to carbon markets and how they're affecting rural communities and how they're benefiting rural communities as well, to other abstract perspectives on why no one is buying the climate dreams that we're selling. So all of these things are, perspectives from young people, which should be truly, truly valued. And for every problem, big or small, there's a matching solution that stands tall. We all need to know and believe that we are visionaries of our future. We are all inheriting this planet. We are all inheriting the society. We are inheriting the economy. We are inheriting all the good things and all the things that need improvement as well. So say it with me, umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu, which means there's strength in unity. And we all need to know that the future is really, truly ours. And I'm so thankful to be a part of this summit, to be a part of a community that is working to build a climate resilient Africa and more empowered youth. Thank you so much. And I will turn it over to anyone who has any questions or comments.
Hey, thank you so much, Miss Nyasaina. I'm sure if we have questions very soon, we'll move to the Q&A session and you'll be able to answer every single question we have for you. But I am so grateful for you rehashing the essence of education when it comes to the topic of climate change. I like how you give us relative information, facts and figures, but you also assure us that we are the future and we have the power to make it right. So thank you so much for your time and pouring into us and empowering us as youth. Okay. So I just want to say welcome again if you're just joining us. This is the African Youth Empowerment Summit. My name is Daisy Alabi and I'm your moderator. So far, we've spoken about integrating climate action into youth entrepreneurship and green finance. We spoke about youth-led agribusiness and food security. And we've just ended a conversation on resilience, water security, and environmental education. It's not too late to invite someone, so please share the link. It's not too late to invite someone, so please share the link and ensure that someone is getting something good from this summit. Okay, moving straight into introducing our very next speaker. He's in the person of Mr. Michael Kyalo Mutwa. He's the communications lead for Mr. and Mrs. Climate, and he's speaking on the topic climate communications for the next generation of environmental leaders. So Mr. Mutwa, if you're with us, we are ready for you. Hello, Mr. Mutwa. Okay. I saw him join, but I think he's dropped. Okay, do we have Madam Hannah Nziokari with us? Because she's our next speaker, if she's with us. Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry,
Okay.
I had an issue with my mic.
Okay. So, before we get to Mr. Mutwa, would pave way for Miss Hannah Nziokari. She's a legal practitioner and youth advocate, and she is to speak on the topic, the role of the youth in community transformation. So thank you so much, Miss Hannah, and you have the floor now.
You're muted again, Hannah.
Sorry,
Hannah,
sorry, I just realized that I was muted. Thank you.
okay.
Let me just, if you could let me just share my screen. But in the meantime, let me just introduce myself. My name is Hannah Nziokai Katiku. I am from Kenya.
Okay.
Just a minute, sorry.
Okay, so before Ms. Hannah comes, I just want to rehash the fact that if you have any questions, please do also drop them in the comment section and share the link. Share the link as we learn on a very, very important conversation, a continuous conversation. Ms. Hannah, are you with us now? Okay. Okay. Mr. Michael Kialo Mutwa, are you with us now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, please
Okay, great.
confirm if you can hear me clearly.
Okay, great. We missed you for a minute. I don't know, Miss Hannah, if you can hear us, if you're having some technical issues, we'll give you some time to settle on that. And then we'll take Mr. Michael Kialo Mutwa. So, Mr. Michael Kialo Mutwa, we're ready for you. But before then, I would love to introduce him as the communications lead for Mr. and Miss Climate. And he is to speak on the topic climate communications for the next generation of environmental leaders. So, Mr. Mutwa, you have the floor now. Hello, Mr. Mutwa.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Am I audible?
You are, but then there's a feedback, I think, in your background, so it's a little bit distracting, please.
Allow me to get into a quiet place and then I join in the call in a few.
Okay, now your sound is clear. If that's fine, you can proceed. Okay. Miss Hannah, are you back with us now?
Yes, I'm back. I think now, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay,
Okay.
lovely.
Okay, then we can take your presentation on the role of the youth in community transformation. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Mutwa, you can hang on for now. Miss Hannah, after Miss Hannah's presentation, then you come in. Thank you very much.
Okay, kindly just confirm that you can see my presentation.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Hannah Nziokai. I am a youth advocate, currently a trainee advocate at the Kenya School of Law, and I'm also an accredited mediator. And I saw it best to discuss this subject in a different way, because of course we all know the community, we all understand ourselves as youth. And I titled this Bold Voices, Big Impact, Youth as Engines of Change. And basically reimagining community through the power of youth. And I hope that at the end of this, we'll all live with something, with a different insights and have something different at heart and at mind. So I've already mentioned who I am, but currently I am working with an organization called Kenya ni Mimi, and I'm a regional focal point there, basically for Nairobi. But besides that, I also do other things on advocacy, especially on civic spaces and transforming, basically doing transformations in communities and as much as I can do within there. So I just wanted us to start with something on, I dubbed and called the math of our might. And it's a very interesting fact because when I always look at the charts, European charts, African charts, all continents vary differently. Here in Africa, we can see from a very long time, not just what I've put here, that youth are the most. Youth are the most here in Africa. Unlike countries like Germany, most European countries, some Asian countries where the people in their 50s to 80s are even more, which is kind of very interesting, considering that people are born every now and then, but I know they have limitations to the number of people who are born in their countries. And so we have over 70% of Africa's population in the under age of 30. And that's actually a very, I like to call it the Gen Z lingo, because Gen Z right now is a very big spectrum, in as much as, of course, there are various reasonings to it, but it's a very big spectrum. And something that I'm reminded of unemployment every time I think of the number of young people that we have. And I'm going to use an example of here in Kenya because we have an unemployment rate of 35%, which I don't think is quite certain, because when I sit down with myself and do calculations of people who keep complaining, it might be a bigger number, but that's the statistics that we have been given. And yeah, so let me just continue so that we can brush through this a bit faster. So why youth and why now? Globally, beyond now saying that we are 70 million here in Africa, we are more actually. We are more than 70 million. Globally, we are 1.8 billion. That's the largest generation in history. We're not just a statistic or a demographic trend, basically, but we are solution architects, we are community builders, we are policy influencers. I think many a times people have the wit to try to find problems to things more than trying to understand what exactly needs to be done next. Because I can go to a school and I find that they don't have chairs, they don't have seats, they don't have desks, they are sitting on floors. But that school has existed for 10 years. Does that mean that someone else hasn't noticed that? So basically, as young people, our thrive should always be to be change makers. What exactly can be done and what should we do? That should be the goal at the end of the day. Yeah, we are not just the leaders of tomorrow, we are architects of today. And that's something we need to remind ourselves every now and then. So from where I stand, as I have mentioned before, I work with various organizations. I've worked for other organizations as well. Kiamiwan, One Perspective Coalition, Championing Abilities, Kenya ni Mimi, State of Youth, UN Habitat are some of the places where I've worked. And some of the things that I do in youth advocacy include quality education, climate action, gender equality, inclusion, justice, and youth participation in governance. Majorly, yeah, that's basically on the SDGs, which I know very many people right now are aware of what they are. And something else is now what makes us powerful as young people. So we as young people are actually a gift to the society. We are a blessing. And especially the young society that is living in this era in Africa. I think we have seen so many things happening across the continents, in Burkina Faso, in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Uganda, so in South Africa. So various things are happening in various countries in the continent. And young people have actually come out and step out to be very strong and bold. And I think I'm not just going to speak in the spectrum when I think of this, I'm not just speaking of it as a matter of national concern or a matter of political concern. Also in spaces such as climate action, spaces such as gender equality, all these spaces, you realize that very many young people have come up with spaces to allow for other people, to come and help with community building. I've seen so many young people are becoming Pan-Africanists right now, and they're thinking outside the box. They're thinking in a different spectrum. They're actually allowing themselves to think beyond, and that is really important. So things that are making us powerful is that young people are actually really bold. I love how we challenge systems, and not just a system, again, as I've said, in a national context. We challenge systems based on the wrongs that we see, and we try to analyze how we can make them better. We're really creative. I've seen young people doing very, very diverse things and creativity. I once met this young man who actually started his own company from making glass out of used bottles, alcohol bottles, things that people just throw out here. And he's made that a business. He's made something out of himself, and he's actually trained other people from where he comes from to do that, because that's now a method for them to get a job. And it's really, really amazing. We are resilient. I love how we rise through adversity. And the best part of it all is that we are digitally fluent. I was telling someone that we are experts without even having expertise. And the reason for that is we have everything. We have so much at we have so much already provided to us digitally. Especially technology has really united us with things that happened in the 1800s, things that happened in the 1900s. We are very much aware of what has happened before, and so we tend to use whatever we know, and remind people that we actually know. Maybe we never existed at that time, but we do know that these things happened, and they shouldn't happen again, and we try to limit them from happening again. So yeah, so we basically organize, mobilize, and globalize even from our phones. I think you've seen people on X, TikTok, and all that, trying to fight for the advocacy. Basically, wherever you're advocating, in whatever space you're in, and people are really doing the best they can. I've seen someone doing spoken words, doing poems, people doing their art and actually showcasing how they do it on social media. And it's really lovely to see that people tend to use their talents, whatever they have, and have a means to show other people that you can actually make something out of yourself with whatever you are. So young people are not afraid to shake the table and sometimes build a new one entirely. Now, definitely with all that, there are barriers that are faced. I like to say that we are like smartphones with no charging cable, full of potential, but unpowered, unfortunately. And some of the things is that we lack funding is an issue. It's a major issue even to businesses, investors, I think in every space. But when it comes to trying to champion for something, especially dealing with a community, because again, a community is a big number of people. Maybe it might be small, but again, at the end of the day, if you're trying to fund, if you're trying to buy chairs for a school, or ensure a school has desks, ensure a school has water, money needs to be used, and in this manner, funding needs to be given. Of course, the problem is always how now to get that funding. When are you going to get that funding? Are you still even going to be a youth by the time you get the funding that you actually need? And tokenism in decision making. Are we really there at the places of decision making? Yes, there are spaces that have come up, but we still have to fight. Regardless, we still have to fight because we're still carried in a different manner. Yeah. And then there's limited access to information and platforms. And mental health strain is something I would say cuts across. Maybe some people have not even realized that they might be facing it, but it's something that so many people are facing. So despite all this, I normally tell people, turn your passion into an action. Whatever you love to do. If you love to speak, please make sure. Apologies for that. If you love to speak, please make sure that you're getting involved, in the speaking forums. Make sure your voice is heard. Make sure you're talking somewhere. Make sure, just try do something that turns turning your passion into an action. I think I've mentioned something like people bring their art and showing us, they can draw, and they'll draw someone, they'll draw something, they'll make an imagery of a particular thing, and we get to see what they are doing. So here's how youth like us make real impact: by getting involved. Join civic programs, community projects, or even start your own club, your own organization. So many young people are thriving in that. Maybe you might not have the amount of resources that you need, but starting from somewhere, as I've said in my next point, start small. Could be a school cleanup, whatever. Any way that you can reach out to a community to show them that this is something you can actually do. I met a young man from Kenya should have been last year, and he really challenged me. He comes from a place called Kibera, and he told me that he's very annoyed by how people like going there and doing cleaning, and that's it. So what else are you supposed to do? You'll clean, and tomorrow it's going to be the same way, the same exact way you found it before you cleaned the place. So the bigger question becomes, what exactly are you trying to do? What is that different thing? Start small, but think about it. Think about what exactly you're doing. What is the difference? Will it make an impact? Yeah. If you're going to do something like a mental health conversation, TikTok, I've seen a lot of people doing X-Space conversations, and people join and learn something out of it, which, as my colleagues have mentioned before, that education is power. No matter what, education can never end. Learning is something that is going to be procedural. Even I have come here today and I've learned so much, and I really do appreciate that. So collaboration, engage with older generations, institutions, NGOs, partnerships, even governments, because at the end of the day, they are there to serve us. And I know there's always a feud between the people and the government many a times, but coexisting has to be there. We have to find a way to coexist and stay consistent. Staying consistent is something I think most people lack, but the minute you are consistent, things move. Because yes, there are days that there'll be a downfall. I've experienced that a million times. People will even scam you. You will go through everything, but staying consistent and trying to be there at the space, trying to find your niche, just learning through your mistakes and all that, you end up building yourself even more. And I think that's really important. So on this part is what I really wanted to talk a lot about, is on intention to impact. Tips for being a young person transforming your community. Just small pointers. The first one is be clear on your why. I've already spoken on this, but be very sure on why do you want to do this particular thing. Your purpose is your compass. Ask yourself, what is the one injustice I cannot ignore? Could be an education, could be inequality, could be animals, could be climate justice, could be gender. We have an issue in Kenya right now with maternal femicide. I think it's something that actually cuts across the world, not even in Kenya alone. So find your niche, find whatever your purpose, your compass. Yeah, we need to know what direction are you taking, but you cannot take a direction without knowing where you want to go. So be very clear on that. And then number 2 is to start where you are. At times, many a times, we are not fortunate. Many a times we don't have the amount of money, the amount of luxury, the amount of resources to maybe start what you really want to do, maybe something really big, but start with where you are. You don't need a big title or brand to lead. Organize a school drive, host an online forum, teach one person. Small acts of boldness shift the world in very big ways. And number 3 is collaborate, don't compete. The spirit of competition is something that has really, really made so many people to fail, because I've witnessed people starting an organization together, maybe, or merging two organizations because they have the same purpose. But you realize that maybe this person is overtaking me and this, so you again split. And we tend to forget that if we want to go fast, go alone. Yes, you can go alone, you can be very fast, but if you want to go far, go together. You need people, you need to collaborate, and people is not just one person. People is the different people who can make an impact. Partner with schools, partner with NGOs, with friends, with the societies. Make sure the community itself is really involved, even the governments, as I had mentioned before. Now, the other thing is to take care of yourself. I think people really forget to take care of themselves, basically their mental health. And your mind, your body, your soul, everything um is really, really involved in how you thrive as a human being, leave alone being a change maker, leave alone being a transformer. And banter change makers don't change much. Honestly, you tire so fast. Build a routine that refuels your prayer, your workouts, journaling, sleep, have fun, at least something to remind yourself that, something that is also going to be your push, something that is going to give you the strength to keep going. Um, the other thing, and how I think I really tell people, how to value yourself is how you organize yourself. If you've heard of someone called Eisenhower, he was a president. He came up with a matrix on prioritization. And I think I've used it and I've told very many young people about it. Um, be very particular and understand some things. Understand urgency, understand importance, understand needs, understand, you know, understand that there are things you can delegate, understand that there are things you need to do, and understand that there are things, different there are things that you actually don't even need to do. So it's really important to give yourself that grace as a human being. And finally is learning, adapting, and repeating. As I have said, um, the education realm is something that we have to keep gaining. Even in advocacy, I will learn something from someone else. If I am someone perhaps in climate, I need to keep up with the laws. I need to keep up with the different policies that are being done. I need to understand why is this being said this way? Why is this person saying it this way? Why are communities refusing for their trees to be cut down? Why is the government wanting us to cut down the trees? We need to have an apt information, have very good information on things, adapt because at times change is something that is very difficult, but we need to adapt to how things are going. And again, despite all that, repeat, because it's a cycle, and take feedback, learn from your failures, and document the wins. Very important. Taking feedback is one way of assuring you that you're definitely giving back to that community. And if you don't get feedback from a community, then who are you supposed to get the feedback from? Because if your involvement is youth and people, you as a person with the community, those are the people you need to ask. Okay, do you think I did it right? Where do you think we went wrong? What do you think we can do differently? Um, yes. So my call to action as I end is: don't wait to be invited to the table. Build your own and bring a chair for someone else. We are normally told to um you know make sure you're at the table, make sure you're seated at the table. And I even want to appreciate the African Youth Empowerment Summit that you've even come up with your own table for us to even come and discuss here. So this is a very good example because you've invited us to sit at this table. This was your table, and thank you for that. My call to all of you tonight is this: be the force, be the fire, be the friend your community didn't know it needed. Because the future isn't ahead, it's already in our hands. So with that, thank you very much. I think that's it from me, and I want to say thank you for giving me this chance. Maybe questions if there are any.
Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Hannah. Thank you so much for inspiring us, for teaching us, and for speaking to our mindset. Okay, I'm so glad you mentioned a few things, and I'll just like to reiterate. When you said we are actors of today, so we shouldn't just be future thinking, but we should understand that we are actors of today. I also love the fact that you remind us to turn our passion into action. And I want to also say thank you for reminding us that if we want to go fast, we should go alone. But if we want to go far, with a team of believers, right? So thank you so much for the opportunity to learn from your experience. Thank you so much, Ms. Hannah. Okay, so moving on to our final speaker for the second session of the second day of the African Youth Empowerment Summit. I would love to invite our last speaker. He's in the person of Mr. Michael Kialo Mutwa. He's the communications lead for Mr. and Miss Climate and is speaking on the topic climate communications for the next generation of environmental leaders. So, Mr. Mutwa, if you're with us, you have the floor to start now. Hello, Mr. Mutwa, please, are you with us now? Okay, I don't know if you can hear me because I see that you are already linked. Okay. I see that you're linked. I don't know if you can hear me. Please, if aside Mr. Mutwa, if you can hear me, kindly give me clapping emoji or something to just assure me that you can hear me. Okay, okay. Okay, so before okay, so I'll reach out to Mr. Mutwa, but since we have the time now, if there are any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section and I will read them out. But personally, I have a question I would love to ask. I mean, if it could go around, I'll be very grateful, but I would love to start with Ambassador Yvette since she's still with us. So I'd love to know, okay, I mean, with the conversation on climate action, environmental leadership, and community transformation, I mean, you spoke about youth-led agribusiness and food security solutions. So I don't have any background when it comes to that. So what do you think is the starting point for me? What do you think is the first step I need to do if I want to contribute to this honorable topic in action?
I would think that everyone has access to a community in their relevant countries where they can speak with landowners. Landowners tend to always wait for us to approach them. They don't realize just how much they can actually donate to making things better to the people around them. So one of the things I would say is be bold. Look at landowners and go and question them. Ask them, let them know that here is what it is that you think they should be doing. How can I get involved? How can I actually do this as part of what you're doing on your agricultural land at the moment to make a difference? Sometimes you don't actually have to have the land. Sometimes it's good to speak to community leaders who are probably farmers. Go speak with the farmers. Sometimes what they do, they themselves will create partnerships with young people to actually create the changes in the community. I mean, I have fostered 15 young adults over the years, and they are all in different fields. However, I've always kept an open door when it comes to anyone who would like to start something. Never ever believe you can't do it. It's like the young lady just said, make a start, even if it's something small. You can grow herbs in just small pots at home. Before you know it, you have a whole nursery full. You realize, okay, so there's people who I can speak to about selling this. There's people who I can speak to about getting a plot to actually start this up from scratch, because you've done it from home in your little confines. You can move it along. Every business is scalable. Every business is scalable. You just have to have courage and know that it is not necessary the government's, it's not their role. You need to do this yourself. If you see the need in your community, then do it. We don't have access to huge funding, but as a patron, I have access to people who fund such projects, people who are interested in this, in such things, looking at a way of sustainable food agriculture. Because if we can feed ourselves, if only Africa could feed itself, you would not, no government would need help from outside at all. And the vast amounts of land that we have, it doesn't take a lot to start something agricultural. Even in your backyard, you can start. There are various courses that I do. I haven't done any of the agricultural ones online. With the agricultural ones, I tend to be invited to come and speak at a university where there are people, students who are already involved in agriculture, who want to know more, who would like to look at what it is that we've done. Why does it work? How does it work? How did you get there? What hurdles are involved? For me, it became because I come from the diplomatic corps, so have I have that sort of way of sitting among the people who are important and make them understand what's happening in their communities. And when I go with a plan to start something. There must be an action at the end of the speech. There has to be a give. When I went to Nigeria, it was speaking about sustainable agriculture. It was speaking about community-led agricultural projects. And that's when it is that we were gifted the initial amount of land to start the project. And all I have done is just be as a patron. You are there to ensure that that person's dream is coming to fruition and to provide for them in whatever way necessary. Take small steps. Don't believe that your patron is just going to go and out of the air, we're just going to find, I don't know, $1 million for you. But what we can do is give you everything that is incremental to your growth. So don't be afraid as young people. Your food is your security. Whether you have it on your windowsill in the kitchen, outside in your backyard, or if you have access to land, it's still your future. Food is your future. There are lots of courses that are available online, which is why I don't do online. I'm someone who likes to actually get involved in the projects. I like to dig. I like to get into the dirt. You understand? I like to actually see things that are happening to the land and the actual growth of the land, of what is there. What are the possibilities now to start making a living for you? So again, start small. Do not believe that you need to come up with a huge plan, $1 million plan. Start small and let your business grow. Let your eyes see what it is that you want to do. Let's see the growth bit by bit. And then all of a sudden, you've got a huge factory producing enough for your entire community. That's what it's about. Collaboration is another key thing. Like the young lady was saying, you have to collaborate. No man is an island. It might be your idea. It's the same as Honorable Prince Egunjobi. He had the idea, but it took me to come in and actually put the framework together. and put all of the actionables that were needed in the 3 months I was there to make sure that something got started. Don't fear to go and speak to people and ask them, even if you got vendors you might go and ask them, where are you getting your produce from? You know, start thinking, because at the end of the day, they are always looking for someone else to provide for them. And if you believe that you can give them, even if it is the smallest amount each week, again, consistency, that was spoken about as well. Be consistent. Keep on going. Yes, there are many people who will say no, but you know what? There is a day when someone will say yes. Never ever give up on your dream. Never ever. So that's what I would like to say in terms of me doing agricultural projects. I don't do online courses because I like to get involved. I like to make people see what I'm talking about, do what I'm doing, and let them practice while I'm there so I can make sure they're doing it correctly. Agriculture is not something that, for me, sustainable agriculture is not about being online. It really isn't. It's not for me. I don't subscribe to that sort of thing. I would love to do, yes, I can do mentorship and everything else because I am a mentorship director for Miss World. So I do that online because it includes people from all across the world. That's different. But agriculture definitely is hands-on. It's hands-on. And I've always said, if you have people who you have access to, ask. If you need help, just ask. It costs nothing for you to ask for help. Okay? It may be just the smallest thing that can just open up a completely big door for you. Just ask. In terms of today, one of the things I would say for young Africans now, I would let you know this. Because of the category of ambassador that I am, we find it offensive to be in a room speaking without seeing the people we're speaking to. We do not accept someone giving a presentation. You cannot see them. So again, all of these things, you have to now bring them together. The etiquette, the protocol, all of these things have to walk hand in hand, or else you would not know who to speak to and the way to speak to them. You wouldn't know how to ask for things in different forums. So we have to ensure that along with what we're doing, there is a global etiquette when it comes to online, when you are hosting an ambassador, especially one like me. We are not supposed to be speaking to screens. We are not. It is very impolite. And that is one of the key things again, education. How do we do these things and do it better the next time? How do we inform our participants in advance? You need to be on camera. We know that you may have issues with your internet, but still, once you are the one that is presenting, it is so important for you to be visible. So again, let's not just go away from the big picture about all of the agriculture that we want to do in the climate change, but we have to look at etiquette. If we don't apply etiquette, we will always get a no. So that's just what I've had to say. And I know I covered other things, but I just thought I'd just make sure and mention that as well. And I thank you so much, Daisy, because you have been an absolute gem today to ensure that I could see who was moderating today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Yvette. Thank you so much for pouring into us. And I am so glad that you're the last voice we hear, because I think you've summed up everything, and you've also been a source of advice. So thank you so much. And we do apologize for not showing our screens. We'll do all to inform our participants before then. Thank you so much for your time. We do not take you for granted at all. Thank you so much, Ambassador Yvette. Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, so all too soon, we've come to the end of the second session of the second day of the African Youth Empowerment Summit. I believe that we do not have any questions, and we have, because I don't see anybody drop it. That means everything has hello, I'm sorry, my line dropped. So as Ambassador Yvette has admonished us, let's just do according to that. Thank you so much once again for joining. Thank you so much to our Zoom participants and our very, very distinguished guests. Thank you so much to Dr. Olufunso Shomorin. Thank you so much to Ambassador Yvette Philbert. Thank you so much to Miss Nyansanya Kwambuka. Thank you so much to Mr. Michael Kialo Mutwa. Thank you so much to Miss Hannah Nziokari. I believe that we've all learned a thing or two from them and will be action makers, right? Okay, so before we end the session, I'll just love to implore everyone to join us tomorrow, day 3. Day 3's theme is youth rights, entrepreneurship, and mental well-being in Africa's transformation. Morning session, we'll be talking about youth voices in civic engagement, media and cultural influence. Let me take it again. On the morning session, we're talking about youth voices in human rights, entrepreneurial pathways for social equity, and in the evening talking about mental health, social protection, and the rights of women and children. As I said earlier, all too soon we've come to the end of the second session, and I'm truly blessed to be under such beautiful speakers. Thank you all so much to our lovely speakers who poured into us. Thank you so much to the participants who joined both on Zoom and YouTube. And I'm moderating from Ghana, so have a good evening and a lovely night. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Thank
Take good
you,
care.
Ambassador. Bye.